Hi kids, welcome back to Fort Carson Kids Time. I'm Chaplain Jonathan Court. Last week we talked about the story of Joseph and how he had to make a hard decision to forgive his brothers even though they were mean to him. Well, the story after that is about Moses being born. Well, Moses was born during a time that was really tough. You see, the Israelites were Joseph's family, as well as Joseph's father, who God changed his name to Israel, which is why we call them the Israelites. So the Israelites kept growing bigger and bigger, and they were ended up getting so big that the Egyptians were afraid they were going to take over all of Egypt. Well, the Egyptians had a plan for that and decided they were going to have all the Israelites work really hard for them and not get paid anything. And they were hoping that they would be able to show that Egypt was stronger that way. Well, God had other plans, and the Israelites continued to have more and more and more and more people, and they just kept growing and growing no matter what the Egyptians did, because that was God's plan. Well, then later on, when the Egyptians realized that their plan wasn't working and that the Israelites continued to have more and more people, they decided they were going to do something really bad, and that was make all of the Israelite baby boys have to be thrown in the river. That's really sad, isn't it? Yeah, but still, God had another plan, because Moses' mom gave birth to Moses during that time when the babies were supposed to die. Well, Moses' mom trusted God, didn't know what God's plan was for Moses, but said, this is a special boy, and so she decided she was going to hide Moses away for as long as she could. It wasn't long, because you can't really hide a baby for very long. Babies make a lot of noise. They cry, and they whine and fuss, and they're up at night, and even now sometimes our neighbors can hear babies crying. Well, there came a time when Moses' mommy realized that she wasn't going to be able to hide Moses any longer. So she went down to the river and she made a basket. And she put this black stuff called tar pitch all over the basket so that it would be waterproof. And that means that water wasn't going to be able to get in the basket, and the basket would float even with Moses in it. So that's what Moses' mommy did. She takes Moses after she made the basket, puts Moses in the basket, and then has the basket go down the river. What could God do with this plan? What could God do with Moses in the river in a basket? You see, God promises to work all things for good for those who trust him, and Moses' mommy trusted God. Well, Moses ends up being found by, do you remember who? Do you know the story? Ends up being found by Pharaoh's daughter. Well, Pharaoh's daughter is the one who names him Moses. But Pharaoh's daughter didn't have a way to feed Moses. So, Moses' sister pops out of the bushes, because she was following Moses in the river while he was in the basket. And she says, ma'am, would you mind if I found someone to feed Moses for you? And she said, that is a great idea. And so Moses' sister goes and gets Moses' mom so that she could feed and take care of Moses. Well, isn't it amazing? Because if we continue to read in about the story of Moses in the book of Exodus, we'll learn that Moses ended up being used by God to do a lot of really great things for God, and ends up God using Moses to bring the people of Israel out of slavery, out of bondage, and out of Egypt, and taken to what's called God's promised land for all of Israel. So We'll talk more about that story next time. But for this week, let's remember that even though things may be bad in our life, God works them out for his good. All right, well, look, thank you so much for joining us for this week's Fort Carson Kids Time. Look forward to seeing you next week when we'll talk more about how God used Moses for good. Bye.